Chapter 18, my favorite. This is the chapter that won Gregory Peck, the actor for the original movie of To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, this is the chapter that won him the awards because this chapter is amazing. So I hope you liked it. So the first thing that happens, and I'm sorry, but this is going to be a long video because there's so many good things and so many things that you got to point out, and I'm going to read to you, and just like we're in class. All right, so chapter 18, Mayella gets on the witness stand. And the first thing that she does is she cries. She knows how to play it, okay? She's trying to make people feel sorry for her. She is the victim. Please don't take this wrong. It's not that I'm trying to poo-poo victims of rape. Like, it is a serious, traumatic event. The problem is she wasn't raped. So this is all an act. So that's why she makes me sick. All right. And her dad being all cocky and acting like he's so funny. you know, he makes me sick. He's a gross, disgusting man. And hopefully you're figuring out why. So Mayella gets up there and she cries when Atticus tries to talk to her. And, the judge is like, it's okay. I know you've never been up here before. Well, what's the matter? What are you scared of? I'm scared of him. She's scared of Atticus. And this is a ploy to make the jury feel sorry for her. All right. She's afraid of she's going to act like she's afraid of Atticus. And, what are you afraid of? I don't want him making me out to be left-handed like my pa. This shows the ignorance, the stupidity of Mayella Ewell and Bob Ewell. They have no idea what Atticus has just proven by showing Bob Ewell to be left-handed. She doesn't know. She knows it's something big. Like, she understands that something just happened and that being left-handed is a bad thing. But she doesn't know why. So she's afraid that he's going to make her out to be left-handed too. She doesn't understand the meaning of it. So that's the first part. Then all of a sudden she, is scared again and whatever. And the judge says, young lady, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I ain't going to answer a word he says as long as he keeps on mocking me. Mocking you? Mr. Finch is not mocking you. All his ma'am and miss and all these things. And he's like, Mayella, those are just polite ways of addressing people. Like, that's how Atticus Finch is. He's always polite. He's always respectful. So he uses those terms of respect when addressing witnesses. I ain't gonna have it. Scout makes a comment of how bad was her life that she didn't know that these were just terms of politeness. No one has ever used the terms ma'am and miss for her. No one's treated her in this kind of polite manner. At least not another white person. And Scout says she's about to learn how bad Mayella's life is. So first of all, she finds out that she's got 7 brothers and sisters. Their ma's been dead. How long's she been dead? Don't know. Long time. Did you go to school? Yep, went to school 2 or 3 years. Why didn't you go after that? Pa said we didn't need to. Got 2 people who can read and write. There ain't no need for me to go. She's 19 years old, and she has no friends. And when Atticus says, what do you do and your friends do, she just doesn't even understand the question because she doesn't have friends. She doesn't do anything with her friends. See, because they are so poor and dirty and gross and mean and lazy and all those things, nobody wants to associate with them. So she doesn't have friends. I want to point out there is one thing of beauty in the Ewell yard, and that was the geraniums on the porch or along the fence. And Scout says she learns that those were Mayella's. That's the one thing of beauty in Mayella's life. The rest of her life is awful. Okay, so let's go through this and figure out how awful. So Atticus starts out, he's being really kind and gentle, even though she thinks he's trying to mock her. He says, I'm getting on in age, and you're going to have to repeat some things for me because my memory's just not so good anymore. And Scout comments that he does something that she's never seen him do before. He takes off his jacket and hangs it on the back of his chair. And so he's just in his shirt, his dress shirt, his suspenders, his tie, and he even takes the tie and he loosens that down and unbuttons that top button. He never does this in public. To Scout, this was like him undressing, like full on undressing, because Atticus never took off his suit and tie or jacket and loosened his tie in public. This is a big deal because he's trying to make Mayella comfortable. He's going through her testimony, trying to make her comfortable, trying to make her not afraid, trying to make her just open up and talk, right? Good technique on his part. So he has her repeat a lot of things for him. Now, you testified, is that correct? And he goes back to his papers and the court reporter and rereads things. Is that correct? And just trying to get things in his mind. But the whole time he's walking back and forth from his table to the window and looking out. Back to his table, back to the window, looking out. And Scout says that she, knowing her father the way she does, she can tell he's trying to make a decision about something. She doesn't know what, but she can tell that he's trying to make a decision. And he finally makes that decision, and you can tell that he's not happy with it, but he makes it. Okay? So he goes through her testimony, and, okay, so you say, and I'm going to read quite a bit out of the book, and I'll give you page numbers so you can follow along. But on page 183, we get all the stuff about her life and how each kid has to haul water for themselves and up to themselves to keep clean. Old tires can make dandy shoes if it's getting to winter and your shoes are worn out, which this is all information that we know from our videos on the 1930s. On page 185, he is still talking about her dad. Just a minute, let me go back to those notes. He's still talking about her and her life, your friends. And then on the bottom of 183, he says, do you love your father, Miss Mayella? Love him? What you mean? I mean, is he good to you? Is he easy to get along with? He does tolerable, except when... And she stops. Except when, says Atticus. And Mayella looks at her dad. And her dad was sitting with his chair tipped back against the railing. You know how you guys do this, and I say 4 on the floor. He's leaned back just on 2 legs of the chair against the railing. This is really inappropriate behavior for a court of law. Like, this is a formal proceeding, and he should be acting in that kind of formal way. Just like school is supposed to be a formal education. So when you guys are all tipped back and got your feet up on the desk, those are actually very disrespectful ways of sitting in a classroom. Just going to put that out there. And so he's all tipped back against the railing. He sits up straight and looks at her, waiting for an answer. Right there is your clue that something is not right. He does tolerable except when, and now Dad's looking at her like, what are you going to say? Except when nothing, said Mayella. I said he does tolerable. Mr. Yule leaned back again, relaxed again. Except when he's drinking, asked Atticus, so gently that Mayella nodded. Understand that line. He does tolerable. He's all right, except when he's been drinking. So when he's been drinking, what does he do that's not tolerable? What does he do that's not all right? Does he ever go after you? What do you mean? When he's riled, drunk. Has he ever beaten you? Mayella looked around, down at the court reporter, up at the judge. Answer the question, Miss Mayella, said Judge Taylor. My pa's never touched a hair of my head in my life. He never touched me. we've had a good visit, Miss Mayella, and now we better get to the case. You say, and now he starts going through the details of the case. He's already planted that seed of doubt in the jury. He's already let the jury see the reaction between the father and daughter. He's already gotten her to admit that he's not tolerable when he's been drinking. And we know from her earlier testimony that he goes off 2 or 3 days drinking away the welfare money. Okay? Atticus has planted some seeds of doubt. So now he says, let's get to the case. And here he starts, he's still got some repeating things. You say on page 185, you say, quote, he caught me and choked me and took advantage of me. Is that right? That's what I said. Do you remember him beating you about the face? Remember Hectate's testimony? He said she was beaten on the right side of her face. In her testimony, all she says is, he caught me, he choked me, and he took advantage, meaning raped me. She never says in her testimony that he beat her on her face. That's what I said. Do you remember him beating you about the face? You seem sure enough that he choked you. All this time you were fighting back. Remember, you, quote, kicked and hollered as loud as you could. Do you remember him beating you about the face? Mayella seemed to be trying to get something clear to herself. It's an easy question, Miss Mayella, so I'll try again. Do you remember him beating you about the face? Atticus's voice had lost its comfortableness. He was speaking in his arid, detached, professional voice. Do you remember him beating you about the face? No, I don't recollect if he hit me. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. He hit me. Was your last sentence your answer? Huh? Yes, he hit. I just don't remember. It all happened so quick. Mayella sniffed. I'll answer any question you got. Get me up here, mock me. I'll answer any. That's okay, said Atticus. There's only a few more. You've testified that he took advantage of you. Is this the man? And she says, that's him right yonder. Tom, stand up. Let Miss Mayella have a good look at you. Is this the man, Miss Mayella? And Tom stands up. And what's revealed to us is that he's crippled. His left arm is 12 inches, an entire foot, shorter than his right arm. And it just hangs dead by his side. And the hand is all shriveled up. And it's completely and utterly useless. He has no control over it whatsoever. It is dead. It just hangs there. Understand that if Mayella was beaten by somebody who's left-handed and Tom's left arm is completely useless, it could not have been him that beat her up. Okay? Is this the man who raped you? It most certainly is. How? That's what Atticus is pointing out. How? He's got the left arm. Like, what did he do? Whip you with it? He can't even do that. Did he pick it up and whip you with it? If somebody's going to beat somebody, they're going to just go by instinct and lead with whatever hand is their dominant. Tom Robinson, if he were going to hurt somebody, if he was going to punch somebody, he would go in with his right hand. And is he strong enough to do it? Oh, he most certainly is. However, if he had hit her with his right hand, it would be the left side of her face. And it wasn't. It's the right side of her face. There is absolutely no way that Tom Robinson beat her up. Got it? Finally, he says, Miss Mayella, you've testified that the defendant choked you and beat you. You didn't say that he sneaked up behind you and knocked you cold, but you turned around and there he was. Do you wish to recount any of your testimony? You want me to say something that didn't happen? No, ma'am. I want you to say something that did happen. Tell us once more, please. What happened? He's called her out. He's pointing out that she is lying on the witness stand, that she's lying and saying that Tom Robinson did this to her. And she says, you want me to lie and say something that didn't happen, did? And he says, no, I want you to say something that did happen. I want you to stop lying and tell the truth. I told you what happened. And now Atticus just peppers her with questions, one after another, boom, 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 boom. I mean, this is where he is awesome. And suddenly Mayella becomes really clear and she is firing back. And finally, Atticus says to her, "You were screaming all this time?" "I certainly was." "Then why didn't the other children hear you? Where were they?" Where were they? Why didn't your screams make them come running? Even if they were at the dump is closer than the woods. You say your father heard you in the woods. Why didn't the children come running if you were screaming? She doesn't answer. Or didn't you scream until you saw your father in the window? You didn't think to scream until then, did you? No answer. Who beat you up, Tom Robinson or your father? No answer. What did your father see in the window? The crime of rape or the best defense to it? Why don't you tell the truth, child? Didn't Bob Ewell beat you up? When Atticus turned away from Mayella, he looked like his stomach hurt. He is not taking pleasure in this. He does not want to put Mayella through this. He does not want to expose to the town what is going on in that household. He does not want to bring all this to light, but it is the only way to defend his client. It is the only way to get the help for Mayella Ewell that she needs. Suddenly, Mayella became articulate. "I got something to say," she said. But she didn't, and Atticus raised his head. "Do you want to tell us what happened?" She did not hear the compassion in his invitation. "I got something to say, and then I ain't gonna say no more. That one took yonder took advantage of me, and if you fine, fancy gentlemen don't want to do nothing about it, then you're all yellow, stinking cowards. Stinking cowards, the lot of you. Your fancy airs don't come to nothing. Your mammin' and Miss Mayella don't come to nothing, Mr. Finch." And then she burst into real tears. Basically, that's the end of this chapter. I mean, Mr. Gilmer wraps things up. The other lawyer, the judge says, "Hey, do you have any more witnesses?" And he's like, and Atticus says, "Yeah, I have one." And that's the end of chapter 18 and leads us into chapter 19. So your key word for chapter 18 is the number 7. Mayella has 7 brothers and sisters. Okay? One email with all words. Now you're done. You can send me that email. Your assignment for tonight is to read chapters 19 through 22 and to complete the worksheet. It is due tomorrow, which is Friday, May 15th.